Beneath the azure sky. The desert stretched out endlessly beneath the vast cloudless sky. Dr. Evelyn Carter squinted against the harsh sunlight, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. She had been leading the archaeological dig for months now, and while their findings had been sparse, there was something in the air that told her today would be different. "Dr. Carter," a voice called out. She turned to see one of her graduate students, Lucas, waving frantically. "You need to see this!" She made her way over the uneven ground, her boots kicking up small clouds of dust. Lucas stood by a large, partially unearthed stone structure, his face flushed with excitement. "Look," he said, pointing to a series of strange symbols carved into the stone. "We've never seen anything like this before." Evelyn knelt down, tracing the symbols with her fingers. They were intricate, almost hypnotic, and unlike any ancient language she had studied. Her heart raced with the thrill of discovery. "Get the rest of the team," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We need to document this immediately." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the team worked tirelessly to uncover more of the structure. It became clear that they had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The symbols seemed to tell a story, one that hinted at an advanced civilization long forgotten by history. The following night, Evelyn sat in her tent, poring over the photographs they had taken. The symbols seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, drawing her in. She felt a strange compulsion to decipher them, as if they held some great secret waiting to be revealed. As the hours passed, she found herself piecing together fragments of the story. It spoke of beings from beyond the stars, visitors who had come to Earth in a time before recorded history. They had brought with them knowledge and power, but also a terrible danger. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. She rushed outside where her team had gathered, their faces pale with fear. "An earthquake?" Lucas asked, his voice shaky. Evelyn shook her head. "I don't think so." Before she could say more, a blinding light erupted from the dig site, illuminating the night sky. The ground split open, revealing a cavernous chamber beneath the surface. Despite their fear, curiosity drove the team to explore the chamber. They descended into the darkness, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grew colder, and a sense of unease settled over them. At the heart of the chamber, they found a massive circular door covered in the same symbols they had seen on the surface. It pulsed with a faint blue light, as if alive. Evelyn approached the door, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers made contact, the symbols glowed brightly, and the door began to slide open with a deep, resonant hum. Beyond the door lay a vast, underground city, its architecture unlike anything they had ever seen. Towering structures of metal and stone reached up towards the cavern's ceiling, connected by bridges and walkways that seemed to defy gravity. "How is this possible?" Lucas whispered, his voice echoing through the chamber. Evelyn didn't have an answer. All she knew was that they had discovered something that could change everything they knew about human history. As they ventured deeper into the city, they felt a growing sense of dread. There was an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing through the empty streets. It was clear that whatever had built this city had long since vanished, or so they thought. They reached the central plaza, where a massive obelisk stood, covered in the same glowing symbols. As they approached, a low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. Suddenly, the obelisk split open, and a figure emerged. It was tall and slender, with smooth gray skin and large black eyes that seemed to pierce their very souls. The team froze in terror as the figure regarded them with an almost predatory curiosity. Evelyn felt a wave of nausea wash over her as it spoke, its voice a guttural whisper that echoed in her mind. "Who dares to awaken us?" it demanded. Evelyn stepped forward, her legs shaking. "We are explorers. We mean no harm." The figure tilted its head as if considering her words. "You have trespassed in a place that was meant to remain forgotten. Now, you must face the consequences." Before they could react, the ground beneath them split open once more, and they were plunged into darkness. Evelyn awoke in a small, dimly lit chamber. Her head throbbed, and her limbs felt heavy. She struggled to sit up, her eyes adjusting to the faint blue light that filled the room. She wasn't alone. Lucas and the rest of the team were there, unconscious but alive. They lay on cold metal slabs, their faces pale and drawn. As she looked around, she realized that the chamber was filled with strange alien technology. Machines hummed and whirred, their purpose unknown. The figure from before stood at the far end of the room, its black eyes fixed on her. "You should not have come here," it said, its voice echoing in her mind. "Now, you will pay the price." Evelyn felt a surge of fear and anger. "What do you want from us?" The figure stepped closer, its gaze never wavering. "We are the last of our kind. We came to your world seeking refuge, but we were betrayed and imprisoned here. Now we seek to reclaim what was taken from us." Evelyn's mind raced. "What do you mean?" The figure gestured to the machines around them. "These devices are capable of transferring our consciousness into new hosts. We have waited millennia for the right moment, and now you have provided us with the means to escape." Evelyn's blood ran cold. "You want to take over our bodies?" The figure nodded. "It is the only way for us to survive." Before she could react, the figure raised its hand, and a blinding light filled the room. Evelyn felt a searing pain in her head, and then everything went black. When Evelyn awoke again, she was back in the chamber, but something was different. Her mind felt foggy, and she struggled to remember what had happened. She looked around and saw that Lucas and the others were awake as well, their faces blank and expressionless. The figure stood before them, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "It is done," it said. "We are free." Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest as she realized what had happened. The aliens had taken over their bodies, and now they were trapped, helpless prisoners in their own minds. But she wasn't ready to give up. She could feel a faint connection to her body, a flicker of hope that told her she might still have a chance. She focused all her energy on that connection, fighting to regain control. Slowly, she felt her strength returning, and the fog began to lift. With a surge of willpower, she forced herself to move, breaking free of the alien's grip. The figure recoiled in surprise, and Evelyn took her chance. "Lucas, help me!" she shouted, hoping that he could hear her. Lucas's eyes flickered, and for a moment, she saw a glimmer of recognition. He struggled against the alien presence, his face contorted with effort. Together, they fought to reclaim their bodies, their minds locked in a desperate battle with the intruders. The aliens were strong, but they had underestimated the strength of human will. One by one, the team members broke free, their eyes blazing with determination. The aliens screamed in rage, their forms flickering and fading as they were forced out of their stolen hosts. In the end, the chamber fell silent, the aliens defeated. Evelyn and her team stood victorious, their bodies their own once more. But the victory came at a cost. The underground city began to collapse, the ancient structures crumbling under the strain. They had to escape, and fast. With the ground shaking beneath their feet, Evelyn and her team raced back through the city, dodging falling debris and collapsing structures. The cavern's ceiling cracked and splintered, threatening to bury them alive. They reached the surface just as the entrance to the chamber caved in, sealing the alien city forever. Gasping for breath, they collapsed onto the sand, the morning sun casting long shadows over the desert. For a moment, they lay there in silence, their minds reeling from the horrors they had witnessed. But they were alive, and that was all that mattered. Evelyn looked at her team, their faces weary but resolute. They had been through hell, but they had come out stronger for it. "We need to get back to the university," she said, her voice steady. "The world needs to know what we found." Lucas nodded, his eyes bright with determination. "And we need to make sure this never happens again." As they made their way back to the camp, Evelyn couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had defeated the aliens, but the knowledge they had uncovered was dangerous. The symbols, the technology, the power, it was all too tempting. She knew that others would come, driven by curiosity and greed, and she feared what they might find. But for now, they had survived, and that was enough. Months later, Evelyn sat in her office, the desert a distant memory. The university had published their findings, and the world had been stunned by the revelation of an ancient, advanced civilization. But they had been careful to omit certain details: the aliens, the consciousness transfer, the true nature of the city. Some secrets were too dangerous to share. She looked out the window, her mind drifting back to that fateful night. The fear and the terror were still fresh in her mind, but so was the sense of triumph. They had faced the unknown and come out stronger for it. And whatever the future held, she knew they were ready. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the campus, Evelyn allowed herself a small smile. They had survived the encounter, and they had made a promise to protect the world from the dangers they had uncovered. And they would keep that promise, no matter what. The end.